PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US. And if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well.
What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. Today, I'm going to be showing off and talking about a 9.8 CGC book that I received back from CGC for my submissions that I am absolutely unhappy with. And you're probably like, what in the hell are you talking about? How are you unhappy with the 9.8? We're going to get into it. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, though, before we get into the video, please take the time to do so, and also check the awesome links below, including how you can become a member of the channel either via YouTube for only $1.99 a month or via Patreon for only $3.99 a month. You guys get extra perks for both of those memberships. More information is in those links, of course. So let's just show it off, folks. This is the book right here that I received back from CGC. Beautiful, amazing Spider-Man 362 in a 9.8 white pages. For those that don't know, this is the first cover appearance of Carnage and Venom. Classic, right? I have this book since I was a kid. It's a newsstand too. I did a major press and clean job on this, major with the tack iron and ball bearings and everything. And I knew I did a really good job pressing and cleaning. I thought this book might have been about a 6.5. After I did my work on it, I was saying 8.5. 9.0 maybe, but I really sat there and said, I don't know. I'll be happy with an 8.5. This book came back at 9.8. Now, for context, if you haven't watched my video, maybe you want to go check that out. Maybe right now, go watch it, come back over, give you guys a little context, or you can just watch it after. Watch me open all my books, because the thing that I always do whenever I send books off to CGC, I write down the grade that I think it's going to be before I send them off. When I get them back, I tape up. I don't look at the grade. I tape it up, and I did my video, and I was surprised. I didn't know the grades that I received. I didn't look at my account on the website or anything. So you guys can see my reaction to this one, and I was like in shock. But over the last 3 years, my last 3 submissions, I've been extremely accurate. I've been spot on to, I believe, more than half of the books that I've submitted, or about half. And about 95% of the rest, I've been off by 1 grade point. So that's either lower or higher. So if I guessed an 8.0, it either came back an 8.5 or a 7.5. If I guessed 9.0, it came back a 9.2. If I guessed 9.4 came back a 9.2 or 9.6, things like that. So I've been very accurate. There's been, I believe, 3 books that have been off by more than that half grade point, right? This was one of them. So we are going to talk about why this book is not a 9.8, and why the fact that CGC is calling it a 9.8 is extremely problematic. Now, again, I want to make it very clear. CGC was pretty accurate with all of my other submissions, and I think they did a very good job according to my research using the Overstreet Guide to Grading Comics, which we're going to review today. But still, one issue like this, to me, should not be happening. All right, before I show you the book up close, we're going to look at what CGC defines a 9.8, and we're going to look into the Overstreet Guide to Grading Comics, as well as how they define a 9.8. All right, so CGC defines a 9.8 as this: nearly perfect with negligible handling or manufacturer defect. Okay, let me repeat that: nearly perfect with negligible handling or manufacturer defect. Now you may ask, well, what's negligible handling? Let's look at the definition of negligible. So small or unimportant as to be not worth considering. Insignificant. Let me repeat that. Negligible. So small or unimportant as to be not worthy considering. Insignificant. Right? All right. Now we're going to look at what is going on in the Overstreet Guide to Grading Comics, folks. Okay? So, they talk about how there are different types of defects. I've talked about this when showing off this book, and I highly recommend everybody invest in one of these books. You know, you got different types of defects, from slight, subtle to small, to very minor, to moderate, and so forth, and all that. And then you take that and you go to their grading scale right here, which shows how many defects can be allowed per grade. And of course, how you define each defect is subjective to this list right here. But let's go to near mint plus, which is a 9.8. Or excuse me, a near mint to mint, because the near mint plus is a 9.6. 9.8 is near mint to mint, and then you got the mint, which would be a 9.9. And then you got the gem mint, which would be a 10.0, as you guys can see here, according to what they're looking at here. So a 9.8 should have only be allowed 1 to 2 defects. I'm going to show you guys again. A 9.8, which is right here, near mint, mint. 1, the bottom one is the blue. That's, it can have up to 1, but can't have more than 2. You see that? 1 to 2. All right? So, now, what type of defects? Well, can it have one defect where, like, the page is bent and color breaks? No, because that defect right there is going to be more than what? What did I say on the definition? Negligent. That's not a negligent defect. So, you could go over to a different grade, and because that one a defect is so large, it's not going to fall under that range, right? So when you take into consideration what we just read here and what CGC is saying, those 1 to 2 defects should be negligible, which means so small that they should be pretty much insignificant. So what have I seen once in a while on 9.8s? Well, maybe one small little spine tick that doesn't break color, that might be right on the edge of the spine. It doesn't even kind of lap over into the cover of the book. You know, I mean, something so small like that, because believe me, I've seen 9.6s that look immaculate, right? Let's review this book now. Let's review this book, and I'm going to do my best to show you guys. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to count, and then I'm going to show. We're going to look at the spine. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe that's 8. Maybe that's a little dust. 7. There's 7 spine ticks. Not all of them break color. There is 7 spine ticks, folks. How many break color? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 that I could see that break color. And they break color very minimally. Very, very minimally. But they break color. All right. Let's see if we can get you guys to see what I'm seeing on this spine. All right. See this right here? You can even see right there. That spine tick creases into the book. You see that? How that light's reflecting? That's an indentation. And there's a couple of them that do right here. See that? See that spine tick? See how the light right here glimmers because there's an indentation that runs about a ½ inch out. It doesn't, it's not really a color break ½ inch out. The color break is bing, like about not even a millimeter right on the spine. There's a color break kind of a tick right on the bottom staple, on the bottom side of the bottom staple, right there, if you guys can see that. And even a little bit on the top. Look at that. There, right there again. Right there again. So a little one right there under the staple. And I thought I saw a little bit of a spine tick right in there. All right. Now, let me ask you all. Are those negligible? Are those so small or unimportant as to be not worth considering, insignificant? And I want to give a big shout out to Bryce Comics, who did a very in-depth, thorough look at what defines a 9.8, and he as well talked about defining what's negligible. So big shout out to Bryce Comics, guys. Go check his channel out if you're not subbed to him. In my mind, it is absolutely clear that these do not render as negligible. You know, maybe a couple of the small ones, but those color breaking ones that have the indentation that run into the comic book, absolutely not. All right, here's another thing. Let's look at the corners. This corner, even though it's decently sharp, has a tiny bit of white blunting. Tiny bit of white blunting on that corner. It is not 9.8. I wouldn't even call that 9.6 sharp whatsoever. Look at that. All right. And the top is blunted as well. I don't think there's white, but you could tell that the tip is slightly folded over. Slightly. Right at the tip. That might be hard for you guys to see. All right. These are not, these are higher grade corners, but they're definitely not 9.6 and 9.8 corners, in my humble opinion. The back is pretty clean, though. I will say that. The back, you could actually see like two of the spine ticks at the bottom cross over to the back very minimally, but that back is beautiful. I mean, that's almost a 9.8 back, I would say. And then, you know, I checked through the pages of this book, and the pages are solid. All right. So, already we have a couple of issues. We have more, according to the Overstreet Guide to Grading Comics, we have more than 2 defects. All right. And those would be very minimal defects. We have about, you know, I mean, looking at the spine ticks, there's at least, you know, 2 major color breaking spine ticks that create that indentation throughout the book. And there's at least, what, 4? At least 4 that obviously color break, maybe even, what I say, 5. And then there's a couple of more. Okay? You have, and then you have blended edges that are very, very minor, but are still noticeable. I mean, they're not insignificant, because I, with the human eye, can notice them, especially this one down here, because there's white around the edge. All right? So, not only does this book not fall under a 9.8 according to CGC themselves, but also to the Overstreet Grading Guide. Let's look at this 9.6, folks. All right? Because I'm going to compare this. I'm going to look at it. This spine is absolutely clean. The edge at the bottom is sharp. The edges around the book are sharp. That top corner, man, yeah, see? That top corner reminds me a little bit of this top corner. Slightly blunted. Let's look at the back, and I'm going to show you guys. Again, another really immaculate back. Okay, look at this book. This book is super clean. Look at this spine. We're going to look at this spine. Tell me if you see any defect on that spine. Look at that. That is clean. Not one spine tick that I can see. Not one. The staples are clean. The edges of this book are clean. That bottom corner, super sharp. Super sharp. Let's look at this top corner, though. I just barely a little bit of blunt action going on, if you ask me. Just a little bit. Now, of course, I've never looked in. I didn't send this book in. I bought it graded, and I have not looked inside. And of course, what's another issue with CGC? No grader notes for higher grades. The back is pretty immaculate. Pretty darn immaculate, folks. And this got a 9.6. How are you going to tell me that this is a 9.6 and this is a 9.8? How? They're from the same era. They're the same age. And no, it doesn't matter that this is a newsstand and this is a direct. It does not matter. Same paper quality, same paper material, everything. And yet you're telling me that this is a 9.8. No, it is not. It is not. And if that's the case, I could crack this open and get like a 9.9 on this. This is the problem, folks. I mean, let's look at this 9.2. Let's look at this 9.2. Okay? Oh yeah, actually, before we do that, I wanna look at the 9.6. How many 2 to 3. 2 to 3 defects allowable from the Overstreet guide. So I would, keeping in mind that the inside of this book, I mean, it's got white pages. Keeping in mind that there's no defects anywhere inside this book. This is a 9.8. According to Overstreet guide, and really looking at what CGC is calling a 9.8, this should be a 9.8. This should be a 9.8. And I would bet money on it that I could crack this slab and send it to CGC at least a couple times. And one of those times it's going to come back a 9.8. And I talk about that all the time. That's a 9.8 book, if you ask me. Let's look at this 9.2. All right. Again, the spine is immaculate. Immaculate. And this is a dark cover and black back. Look at that, nothing on the spine at all. But what you do have is a little bit of color rub at the top. Whether you want to call that blunting or just color rub, you know, you can kind of see that there. And any at the bottom? Little at the bottom, I would say. Sometimes that happens with manufacturing and the way that they're cut, but it could be handling. You know, it could be like when they're in the box from, you know, Diamond, and they're moving around, a little bit of color rub off there. The corners, man, I mean, the corners are just as sharp, if not sharper. Just as sharp, or if not sharper than the 9.8. Again, I wouldn't argue that these are 9.8 sharp corners. I mean, it's tough. I think there's a little bit of blending on the bottom one. All right, now let's look at the back. One thing that I did see that on the back is some color rub along the spine. And I think that's probably what hit this book. The back corners are decent. Oh, yep, a little bit of a top corner is super sharp. Little ding right here. You see a little bit of a white. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can see with the human eye a little bit of a white right there. And then you got some color rub. Right, let's see. Right around where the staples are. So if you guys can see that. There we go. A little bit color rub right in there. And then same with see all that? That's some color rub going on right there, even down here a little bit. So, look, fairly accurate. I mean, if you look at what Overstreet Guide says for a 996, you know, you can have a 3 to 4. So, you know, you got probably 2 with the color rubs. You know, maybe a little of blunting there too. I mean, this is a very accurate grade in my opinion, considering how you want to rate those grades. Now here's the thing. Again, now I know this book has different defects in this one, but I mean, are they really that far apart? No, they're not. Because again, I still think this book has more defects, more defects than this one, and this one's a 9.2. Hence, why I thought this was an 8.5. Now let's look at this. CGC has at a 9.0, this is what they state. A very well-preserved collectible with good eye appeal. Okay? There will be a number of minor handling and or manufacturing defects. So, again, according to this guide here, 9.0 could be 4 to 6. 4 to 6 defects. Pair that with what CGC is saying, with a good eye appeal, very well preserved, but a number of minor handling defects. So corners would be minor. Many of these spine ticks would be minor, but I don't know. Those two that actually crease into the book, or indent into the book, like that one and that one, I don't know if I call those minor. I might call those two moderate, and then I would call everything else minor. So about 6. I would say a 9.0 for this is accurate. But when you consider it what CGC states an 8.5 to be, it's everything they say a 9.0 to be, but it could have some moderate handling or manufacturer defects. In an 8.5, it's allowed 4 to 7 defects in the overshoot grade. What did I count the first time around? What, 7? 7 defects about? Very much more accurate to an 8.5. Possibly a 9.0. This book is not a 9.8, period. It's not a 9.8, folks. And when I did that unboxing and folks were like, hey, at least you got a 9.8. No, I'm not gonna celebrate a book getting a 9.0 when it's not a 9.0. That's like if you're going to school and you're not just, wanting to shoot the crap to get by, and you want an education. You don't want to cheat on your test. You don't want the teacher to give you an A when you didn't deserve an A, when you didn't get an A. If I fail my test, I need to know what I got wrong so I can improve, so I can learn the material. I want this to represent the book that I own. That's false. It's not a 9.8, and I'm not going to be happy about that. And I'm not going to sell it. This is mine for my collection. It's not a 9.8. This is the problem with CGC. This is the problem with grading companies in general. Until we have more transparency, until we understand the criteria at a deeper level too, until we understand that the standard deviation for these books cannot be so broad, it's always going to be subjective. There's always going to be subjectivity. And I use this reference a lot, and I'll use it again. It's just like baseball with umpires in the strike zone. The strike zone, if you guys watch baseball, you see that they have on the screen now, they have the rectangular strike zone. The strike zone is set, and they go into the game knowing the strike zone. And the umpire might call balls or strikes a little bit. There's a small standard deviation and room for error, but it's very, very small because they've set precedent of what that strike zone should be, but they're still human. With CGC and the grading companies, it would be like an umpire calling a ball that was like way up here above the batter's head. It's unacceptable. And as long as these things keep happening, it renders this grade null. This grade means nothing, and that's why we keep saying, don't buy the grade, buy the book. It means nothing. But yet we still put value in these things as if they are concrete science, when they're not. And it's even more problematic with 9.8s because people are willing to spend hundreds and sometimes thousands and thousands of more dollars for a 9.8 just because CGC called it a 9.8. I could put this up on eBay right now for hundreds of more dollars than what it's really worth simply because they got the sticker wrong. That's not right. That's not right. That's my video today, folks. I would appreciate everyone to share their thoughts and comments below. I'd love to know what you guys think. Again, I'm not sitting here being anti-CGC or anti-grading company. I enjoy sending keys to get graded. I want to support all of the grading companies out there, and I want them to continue to succeed. But we need to evolve, folks. We need to speak up and put our foot down and speak with our purchasing power. And until things change, especially the 9.8s. And I say, stop buying 9.8s. It's my humble opinion. I would never buy a 9.8 unless it was like extremely under fair market value, right? The 9.8 market is crazy right now, and it's just not worth it, especially knowing, and I mark my word on it, that, you know, if you get a 9.6, you can send it back 3, 4, 5 times, and one of those times is going to come back a 9.8. So there it is, folks. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take the time to do so. Be well, and until next time.